goes down as Vasily gets a little bit greedy again, but this time it works out as No Name goes in for Acorn. The turret is not there to help Samsung Blue out, remember, so this is sort of a tense situation for LMQ. They do, however, manage to take down Ackerman and Vasily without any contest. They haven't lost any members, and now they're chasing on LMQ, who really did stay just a little bit too long, and probably shouldn't have gone in for that fight. No Name just gonna get taken now by Dottie. He thought he maybe had an escape. Now Xiao's getting chased.
This is probably
oh my god!
Wow,
He kills Dottie. He kills Dottie at the very last second. This is all that damage in Xiao finally paying off a little bit. He gets the kill back on Dottie, making it a 1-for-4. Still a huge advantage for Samsung Blue, but do remember, LMQ did manage to destroy that inhibitor turret. When they respawn, they have a place to push if they can finally take a map advantage back.
Yes, if you were to pay attention, you saw that both Xiao and Dade turned gold temporarily, especially due to with Dade sneakily avoiding the shockwave coming out from Xiao. Now, him turning gold means that he activated an item in his inventory called the Zonius Hourglass. Appropriately, it looks like an hourglass in his inventory, so it should be easy to spot once we see the inventory again. What Zonius Hourglass does is that not only gives him a bit of extra armor and a lot of extra magic power, it also, if you turn it on, immobilizes you in return for turning you invincible for a few short seconds. It's a really good way to dodge spells like Shockwave and allow your cooldowns to refresh to allow yourself to either escape a sticky situation or press on harder with the offense.
Yeah, so LMQ, because they had so much pressure on the Samsung Blue's base right now, have not really lost that much from getting taken down. Samsung Blue have not been able to rush down to LMQ's base and take those objectives back. So LMQ did not lose quite as much from that fight as they could have. Still, Samsung Blue will be quite happy just because they have actually a 6,000 gold lead now, which is supposed to be quite significant, but LMQ in this game just don't really seem to care because they have the better teamfight composition in the late game. So much right now depends on Deft being able to flank, being able to outposition LMQ, and so much depends on their ability to get onto Vasily. Vasily has already played greedy a couple of times before, and it's cost him his life. If he does that again, that could be the decisive game-ending disadvantage for LMQ.
Now, you do see that Hart has, in fact, itemized against LMQ's heavy magic damage, and that his second item is a yellow shield called the Aegis of Legion. Now, Aegis of Legion doesn't just increase his magic resistance, but also creates an aura for his team, all allied teams nearby, that increases their tankiness as well.
Whoa! LMQ are taking a hell of a lot of area damage from Dottie and all the poke coming out of Samsung Blue. And now Samsung Blue are just going to engage because the two-member down, LMQ does not have a hope in the world of fighting them. Vasily gets taken out as the second-to-last man more on the retreat, gets himself completely and utterly murdered. That's an ace for Samsung Blue. They're going to push up the mid lane and take out an inhibitor, at least. Deft does take a few more turret hits than he perhaps needs to, but Spirit is going to come in, tank up the turret, take those shots, even though they do quite a bit of damage, and they're just going to push on. This is, like I said, that could be the game-ending disadvantage for LMQ, because Samsung Blue are rotating now 3 of their members up to the Baron to take down that objective, as well as this inhibitor turret and the inhibitor, which LMQ are just not alive to be able to stop them doing.
Yep, since Dottie has a lot of magic power now that he's built a Rabadon's Death Cap, all of his attacks against structures like the turret and the inhibitor are a lot more impacting, as structures take damage based on both physical and magic damage. What the Rabadon Death Cap does is not only provides him a flat 120 points of ability power, making all his spells more impacting, it also amplifies the ability power from the rest of his kit as well, making him all the more dangerous whenever he pops in with his Rift Walk, as effectively he turns into a traveling one-man nuke. As you saw there, as the moment he showed up in the middle of the fight, the enemy team's health bar suddenly disappeared.
Yeah, he's very dangerous. Like we said earlier in the game, once Dade reaches the late game, he's going to become an absolute monster. Also notice that there are 13 kills on Dade right now. He has 13 kills, and Deft has 10. This is unusual for the World Championships, perhaps low. Vasily gets caught out by a very invisible Deft, gets taking a lot of damage, but they immediately manage to turn the damage back on Deft. Vasily survives, and now Spirit is dead as well. LMQ, all of a sudden, taking this entire game back in their advantage. This is absolute assholes! This was supposed to be over yesterday!
I'm not quite sure how Spirit and Death Magic get caught so badly out 2 versus 5. But even with Bear Buff, you're not going to be able to out-damage an entire enemy team like that unless they're severely far behind the levels, which LMQ is not. They've actually played a fairly competitive game against the top Korean team. In fact, they're actually putting them against the ropes right now. With the exposed inhibitor and no turrets to help them out, 2 versus 5 situation, 3 versus 5 situation is not to Samsung Blue's favor, especially at 41 minutes in. The longer the game goes, each time you die, the longer it takes for you to respawn and rejoin the fight. And currently, it's going to take another 10 seconds just to see Spirit back in the fight.
Yeah, this is rather insane, honestly. Nobody was number one. Samsung Blue is the massive favorites for this group. Like, for the whole group, not just against LMQ, for the whole group that they're in the World Championships. They're among the favorites to win the whole championship. LMQ, they're good in North America, but they are definitely not favored to win against any Korean team, and yet here we are with 2 inhibitors down, 1 on each side, and extremely, honestly, he was counting on being able to burst down Vasily a lot faster than he was actually able to do. Vasily gets a lot of heals from both his support and from his own summoner spell and from the item that is in Moore's inventory right now called the Mikhail's Crucible. That's what keeps him alive, and that's the reason they could swing that fight, because all that damage on Vasily did not get taken out of the game.
Yep, it was quite unfortunate for Def to be so close to Vasily. He was definitely trying to burst him down, but because he was so close to everybody else, they were on the ball enough and undisturbed enough by sudden appearance to just heal Vasily back up and turn the fight right on his face. Furthermore, we also see that Xiao and Ackerman both have the Liantri's Torment, which is the white mask bleeding, crying red tears of blood in both of their inventories. What the Liantri's Torment does is improve their magic penetration as well, improve the magic penetration so they do more damage. But it also allows their spells to deal damage over time based on percent of the afflicted victim's maximum health. So they're doing a lot of damage, even if they just hit once with the spell.
Yeah, it's going to keep doing damage over time, and it's also going to slow them down. So anytime you get caught by spells from either Ackerman or Xiao, you're going to have a lot more trouble getting away from him again. So this is an unconventional pickup, by the way, and on Orianna especially. It's pretty normal on the Rumble, but a mid laner like Orianna taking it, because it doesn't provide that much raw damage and not that much burst damage, most people prefer to go with something else for their item, but Xiao making a decision here that he'd rather be more utility for his team than necessarily just dealing a ton of damage on top of the enemy.
Yes, indeed. It will, however, be harder and harder to take down Spirit in particular, who has picked up the Banshee's Veil, the second item in his inventory that kind of looks like a cross. What Banshee's Veil does is, like, every, I think, 40-45 seconds, it produces a shield that doesn't absorb damage, but does negate the next magic ability that happens to hit him. So he's able to sneak into the backline, take at least one blow, and empty out the rest of his spells, while also making sure that the magic resistance on Banshee's Veil reduces the effectiveness of the attacks laid out against him.
Yeah, so the situation right now is that in not too long, LMQ's inhibitor actually has already respawned. Inhibitors stay dead for 3 minutes. Once they respawn, you don't get super minions in that lane anymore. However, since LMQ took down Samsung's Blue inhibitor a good while after their own inhibitor got taken down, Samsung Blue's inhibitor is going to stay dead for a while longer, which means they keep having to give attention to the mid lane minion waves in order to stop those super minions pushing into their base. So Samsung Blue, even though they're so far up in LMQ's territory, whoa, that was close, are technically a little bit on the defensive right now. Hart barely manages to flash away from the ultimate out of Xiao. Now, flash for Hart is on a much longer cooldown than the ultimate from Xiao, but Xiao does not have that ultimate now if Samsung Blue decide to push on the base, and it looks like that's exactly what they're gonna do.
Yeah. Earlier, you also see a bunch of red circles on the ground. Those are coming from the sweeper trinkets, the red ones on the far side of each site's inventory. The sweeper trinkets are the only ways to spot a stealth ward other than having a vision ward on the field, or when upgraded, see an invisible unit that's sneaking around. You see the yellow trinket and a Vasily slot. I forgot what it's called, but it drops a temporary 1 minute ward on the field. It has the same range as the side ward and same invisibility, but only lasts 1 minute because all trinkets are effectively free. You also however, see Deft carrying a blue trinket that allows him to basically scout out a long area, temporarily extending vision for a few seconds in an area that he's not in. It's a good way to scout as well as a good way to chase after enemies that are hiding in bushes, but otherwise can't detect. Otherwise, will not be able to detect invisible units or invisible wards.
Yeah, so what was going on there was that Samsung Blue basically were preventing LMQ from capitalizing on their advantage from the dead inhibitor in Samsung Blue's base. They were sort of trying to get the blue inhibitor in LMQ's base, but what they really wanted to do was stop LMQ pushing too hard on their base. It was a pretty damn risky play, however, and I'm not sure. Oh my god, No Name goes straight in onto Hart. He doesn't have the follow-up from his team, however. Now Acorn is counter-engaging on the heads of LMQ. Vasily is getting taken out by Spirit off on the side, and oh my god, a shockwave! Not quite enough to save him because Spirit does have all that magic resistance now. Xiao, Vasily, Moore, Ackerman are already dead. No Name follows. That's an ace for nothing for Samsung Blue, and that is the game. Congratulations, Samsung Blue. You take down LMQ after a hard-fought match that you could have thrown so many times by playing poorly.
Sounded a little sarcastic there, but it is true that LMQ managed to catch Samsung Blue by surprise quite a lot. But with the ace, the closest respawn timer is a full 30 seconds. And it's not going to take a half minute for Samsung Blue to finish the game. So LMQ has definitely lost this game despite putting up a valiant fight.
Yeah, this was, let's call it the expected result, because that's honestly what it was. We mentioned this multiple times during the game, but yeah, after those mispositions, those misplays from Samsung Blue, I was expecting that LMQ could actually have taken this game. Now, Samsung Blue do look rather pleased with themselves for winning this game, which perhaps they shouldn't be, because if they make those misplays against a team that's even a little bit better than LMQ is, they are not going to win this tournament. In fact, they might not even get through the quarterfinals.
Yeah, that was definitely a tougher game than expected from an otherwise high-quality Korean team. But they did yesterday drop a game against Europe's Alliance, so I'm guessing they're still a little shaken.
Fnatic.
Sorry, Fnatic. Wait, no, Alliance took out Shield. My apologies.
Yeah.
2 days ago they did lose to Fnatic, so both of the Korean contenders in the Singaporean group stage are definitely looking a little shaky. They definitely weren't expecting the other regions to have caught up this far this year.
Yeah, that was certainly not the game that Samsung Blue were hoping to have, but they do seem rather pleased to have won it. And I've got to say, LMQ can feel a little bit proud of themselves there, because they managed to capitalize very hard on not a lot of mistakes. And by the end of the game, by the way, when the game was ending, and even though LMQ were getting all those good fights back, all those picks back, pressuring Samsung Blue so much, they were consistently 10 to 15,000 gold behind, which is absolutely huge. At that point, you're not supposed to be able to push back. You're not supposed to have a chance even of going even in the game. So that's honestly very well played by LMQ, which is probably why they look sort of okay not winning this game. Anyway, I'm going to throw you back over to the regular casters, which means that we are just going to go quiet, and as soon as you hear us talking again, it will be the pick and ban phase of the next game. We will be back for you then, guys. See you around. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for Kaboom versus Alliance. Now, this is kind of an important match for Alliance to win. If you've been watching the regular broadcast, you'll know that the bracket situation is a little bit complicated. But basically, if Alliance win this game here, they are almost assured a way out of these group stages and into the quarterfinals. So, taking on the Brazilian team, Kaboom, who are generally not favored to win anything at all this tournament, they should be feeling quite confident coming into the game. With me is Obscurica GGC, who is going to be helping me out, providing the newbie-friendly commentary for this match. Hey, dude.
Indeed. Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Right away, we see that if you saw yesterday's matches, you know that Shook basically dominated completely out of the blue a Korean team in a perfect game using Lee Sin, which fully explains why he is the very first ban for Kaboom Esports, because nobody wants Shook to ever play Lee Sin again in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's definitely, you're not, Shook put on a performance that can only be described as world-class. Like, that's the kind of thing that, if he did that in the World Finals, I would give Alliance a very good chance to win. So, Kaboom banning that away, and they're also taking away Wicked's Irelia. That's the third ban down in the lower left there, with a 6.5% ban rate, almost all of it directed at Wicked, because Wicked loves Irelia. He loves playing her, he loves just looking at her art, he loves being near her in every single game he can possibly use her. So
it's actually a little disturbing.
Yeah, it's a little bit disturbing the way he loves that champion, but taking that away from Alliance does deny Wicked an extremely comfortable pick that he can choose into almost any matchup and still do well, not because the champion is good, but because Wicked is so good with her.
Now, we do see that Shook has picked up Kha'Zix in place of Lee Sin, and what Kha'Zix does is that at level 6 and beyond, he's able to turn invisible and sneak up on an enemy. He also has isolation damage, where if he catches you alone without an allied unit nearby, whether a minion or a champion, he does even more bonus damage upon your poor body. So, it's definitely a champion that's capable of sneaking up on high priority targets and taking them out, and also benefits him to actually outright kill the target, as it allows his ability to jump around to reset, allow him to either follow up on another soft target or to get away from a fight entirely.
Yeah, Kha'Zix can basically initiate what we call a reset party. If he jumps in on a bunch of enemies who were taken down to low health by the rest of Alliance, takes out one, he can jump onto the next one and kill them, and then jump onto the next one and kill them, and then jump onto the next one and kill them, and then jump onto the end. You see where I'm going with this, right? So if Shook gets into a really good position where a lot of enemies are low on health, he can basically end an entire fight on his own. He can do what's called cleanup duty, usually. So he's very dangerous in that respect, especially since Alliance right now have both Froggen and Tabs playing very powerful area of effect damage champions. Froggen right now has picked up, she might be going to the top lane, by the way, that Kayle that Froggen is holding on to. Kayle is a powerful top or mid lane mage who has a lot of area of effect damage in her auto attacks. She has an ability that she can activate, which causes all of her auto attacks to deal more damage, first of all, and second of all, they deal area of effect damage, which means anything standing near the things that she's attacking will also be taking a large portion of the damage. So if Tabs, with his ultimate, which allows him to do much the same thing, and Kayle both unload that ability onto an enemy team, they will be taken low. They will be taking a lot of damage across their whole composition, which is a nice setup for Shook to go in and clean it all up again.
Indeed. Now, we talked about how Shook's assassin has a lot of ability to kill people, but he has to be careful of who he is talking to and when. Because on Kaboom's side, they're running Ryze in top lane for Lep. Now, Ryze is a mage that early on is fairly weak. His spells don't do a lot of damage yet. He doesn't have a lot of mana. He get to move around a lot, as he has no way to dash around. Later on in the game, however, due to the itemization and due to the fact that he builds a lot of mana that turns into damage on a per spell basis, Ryze becomes a formidable threat. Rune Prison will be able to lock down Shook, and the items that Ryze will be building will make him really, really tough to take down. Of course, that's assuming he gets those items, and versus Alliance's Froggen, who's picked up Fizz, that might be a little tricky, as Fizz is a very powerful assassin as well. What Fizz can do is not only shrug off all damages by jumping on his pole, allowing it, using Playful Trickster to to cause the enemy spells to miss, but he can also blow them up with Lich Bane and Urchin Strike with by just pumping a whole bunch of damage on a target at once.
Definitely. I need to respond to a thing in chat, so you can just go on.
No problem. We also see that Tabs has picked up Twitch, an AD carry, basically a gunner that carries a crossbow that fires poison bolts around. Now, Twitch is an interesting champion in that his range is respectable, but what the real secret to his usage is that Twitch is able to turn invisible for a short moment, sneak up on a target, and dump all his spells at once with an even faster attack rate the moment he comes out of stealth. So with both Kha'Zix and Twitch running around with stealth mechanics, it's going to be very interesting to see how Kaboom will be able to track Alliance's locations and respond appropriately to their positions.
Yeah, that's...
Now helping...
Yeah, you go on.
Yes. Helping out Tabs will be Nif on Thresh, whose death sentence is a long-range chain that, after winding up a bit, potentially lands on targets, stunning them, and dragging them deeper into the fight against their will. He can also use the same chain to leap onto the target, pulling them in with Flay and dropping a literal box on them that slows them down if they try to hit the wall. So it's a really good way to control a fight and keep Alliance one step ahead of Kaboom. However, Twitch is weak, and if he is spotted, it can be easy for Kaboom to take him down, as they have a lot of single target crowd control spells. Tinnold, for example, is running Ari, a fox spirit out of Korean mythology that has Charm, which is a skill shot that goes down the line, and if it lands on a target, draws them in towards her while also disabling all their spells and attacks. And it also amplifies the magic damage coming out of her, making it much easier for her to take a target down if they're careless enough to be caught by her charm in the first place. Yeah. But even if charm misses, Dance Morgana has Dark Binding, which is a long-range root. It pins you to the floor. You can still use your abilities, and you can still attack, but you won't be able to move around or dash around, as well as Black Shield to neutralize Alliance's magic spells as well, and their ability to control targets with crowd control abilities.
Yeah, so what we saw happening here was that the teams were mostly interested in putting down Vision. Oh, yeah, okay. So the reason I was scared there was that Miniver was quite close to the Alliance team, and if they jumped on him, he would have been dead. Anyway, what they were doing right there was trying to put down Vision in the enemy jungle, in enemy territory, to keep sight of where the enemy jungler is going. So Alliance wanted to know where Denagorn was hanging around, which area of the jungle he was starting in, and Kaboom wanted to know much the same. And the result of that was that they were poking at each other quite a lot. And while a level 1 fight is very unusual, if Alliance or Kaboom had seen an advantage to going in for the fight, they definitely would have.
Indeed. Right now, what you're seeing Shook do is take down the Elder Lizard, which, if he successfully takes it down, grants him a red buff, the red circle around him, that not only increases his damage by making all of his auto attacks deal damage over time, basically burning damage, but also allows him to slow down a target that he hits, making it easier for him to gank later on.
Yeah, so that's an important jungle buff in terms of being able to put down early pressure. It also helps him clear his jungle, because the extra damage lets him do more damage to monsters as well. So that's the choice that junglers make at the start of a game, whether to go for the blue or the red buff, tells you sometimes a little something about how they're planning to play out the next 3 to 5 minutes.
Yes. Meanwhile, Danagorn was taking down the Ancient Golem instead, the blue buff, that increases how fast his mana regenerates, allowing him to cast more spells over time, but also to reduce the cooldown so he can cast his spells more frequently. Since every single time you use a spell, it goes down on cooldown, meaning that you can't use it for a while. Now, Daz unfortunately took a huge hook from Death Sentence from Nymph that dragged him under the turret. Since he was the only enemy unit near the turret starts firing bolts of fire down on his face. And every subsequent turret fire after the first one deals even more damage. So it's definitely a bit of an oops on Kaboom's side to allow themselves to be Death Sentence like that.
Yeah, you are a little bit ahead of me in time, I think.
I'm at 3:31 right now.
Yeah, you're 10 seconds ahead of me as it stands.
Ooh, how did that happen?
I'm going to try and see if I can't catch up. I had a few lag issues where now I'm at 3:30.
Okay, I'm at 3:40, so I'm definitely a little ahead.
Yeah, I'll try if you can slow down by 10 seconds, then we can synchronize up so you don't see things before I do, and I don't see things way too late.
Yes.
Okay, so Wicked and Lep are trading a little bit there in the bot lane. Lep right now is coming out ahead, and Wicked is retreating because he probably, he had a sense that Danagorn was coming in, and getting himself dragged, getting himself killed under the turret like that. That's the weakness of Kayle early on in the game, is that she's not very mobile. She doesn't really have a clear way to escape once her flash, which is the summoner spell that you can see on the right of her portrait, the yellow icon currently on cooldown. Once that's blown, she doesn't have any other way to really dash out of a situation or quickly move somewhere. So without that, Wicked is pretty darn vulnerable to ganks like the one coming in from Danagorn, and he's also vulnerable to follow-up ganks for the next 5 minutes while the flash is while the flash is restoring itself from cooldown.
Yes. Now, part of it is also that Wicked is currently at level 3. At level 6, he gains the ability to He gains the ability called Intervention, which temporarily casts a shield of invincibility around a target. They can still be controlled by crowd control, but they won't be taking damage. It becomes a lot harder to take him down as a result. But that's at level 6, and he's still only at level 4 as I am speaking, so that's not available to him for a couple more minutes.
Yeah.
I'm currently at 5 minutes exactly right now. Is that safe for you?
Me too.
Okay,
so
good.
we are synchronized now. So Froggen in the mid lane, because Froggen has to get close to minions to kill them. He has to get close to farm and get any gold and experience. He's quite vulnerable to poke from Tinones from range, which means he's going to take a lot of damage in the early game as he's trying to farm. Later on in the game, because of all the burst damage he has, he will be able to threaten Tinones to stay, at a more respectful distance, because otherwise Froggen will just go straight in on him and destroy him. But for now, Tinones is taking full advantage of the fact that Froggen is basically out of range to really farm effectively at the moment. That said, Froggen is keeping up very effectively, and now down in the bottom lane, Wicked has decided that just because Lep won a trade earlier in the game, he's definitely not going to win all of them.
Yes. Currently, Froggen is not dealing a lot of damage when he does go in on 10 nodes. That's because the item he has right now, the little red bottle with the blue background, is called a Crystalline Flask, which offers no combat abilities whatsoever, but does, every single time he uses it, heal him for a bit of health, and also restores his mana, meaning that he can stay in lane longer. It has 3 charges, and once he uses up the charges, he won't be able to use it anymore until he goes back to the fountain, resetting those charges for him. Unfortunately, Nif's a little caught.
Yeah, he's a little caught, actually quite a lot caught. He tries to throw the death sentence over the wall to catch one of the wights hanging out in the camp next to Froggen's lane. If he had done that, he might have been able to drag himself to it and out of danger. As it stands, however, he's just going to get caught out and murdered. Froggen tries to put some damage back by throwing his ultimate at Tinones. It misses, however, and Tabs now trying to come in to help out is going to get a little bit caught by Danagorn and take some damage back. So Alliance not having, honestly, a very brilliant early game, which is surprising because yesterday, they took down in a perfect game without losing a single kill or a single structure on the map, or even a single dragon objective or anything. They took down the absolute favorites of their entire group, the Korean team Najin White Shield. So seeing them struggle like this against the very, very, very aggressive Brazilians is something of a surprise. Danagorn, however, may have gone a little bit too deep, and
oh yeah, he's definitely taking too much.
There we go, he's dead.
Oh boy,
that was a lot of damage. Now the thing that the Twitch can do, which is a little bit unique to him, is that every time he attacks you, every time he puts damage on you, and with a few of his abilities, he can poison you. And if he does that 5 times in a row, 5 icons are going to build up around you, turn into one big icon over your head, and then he has an ability called Expunge, which deals damage to enemies based on how much poison they've got in them already. So if he can build up 5 stacks on you and then execute with that Expunge ability, he can do so much damage to you from quite a long range.
Indeed. Although I think Expunge was recently changed to be called, Contaminate now.
Contaminate, yeah.
Yes, it was a recent change to the ability. And Contaminate, basically just blows you up if you take too many stacks. It is, however, unusual to see Alliance be pinned down in, under their own turret like that. And what we're seeing is Kaboom putting up really, really great vision around the top lane, knowing that they really want to keep Tabs and Nif suppressed. The vision you see is coming out.
Whoa, Danagorn walked straight into the face of Shook. Now, Danagorn right now is isolated. He's too far away from his teammates, so they can't help him, which means he takes extra damage from every single attack Shook puts down. Now he's so low that Shook can just jump in on his head, get the reset that we discussed earlier on his jumping ability, and Shook can jump back out, just free of any danger. Now, on the other hand, they did manage to pick up a return kill on Nith while Shook was busy going very deep against Danagorn, so it's not a clean win for Alliance there, but they do manage to push the jungler out and keep tabs safe, which is the primary objective in the top lane right now. Whoa, Wicked taking a lot of damage from Lep. Lep is not supposed, really, to be so powerful and such a lane bully early on, but Wicked doesn't seem particularly comfortable on this Kayle. He can't really put the damage back, so he's taking a lot of pressure right now.
Yes. Part of why Nith went down earlier was because he was already low in health for trading earlier.
Yeah.
And what Minerva has on Jinx is the ultimate ability is a giant rocket called literally the Super Mega Death Rocket. And what the Super Mega Death Rocket does, as silly as it sounds, is that if you're already low, it deals even more damage on you in a giant AoE burst. So that nuke caught Nith by surprise. It can also travel quite a long range across the entire map, so it's often used to snipe a target that's otherwise not.
Wicked is in a lot of trouble. Chinhound's roaming from the mid lane, just jumps on and puts down his crowd control and completely and utterly destroys the poor top laner where he stands. However, Froggen and Shook have both roamed down and are determined to turn this fight around. Lep does not really have a way out of this, so if Shook can get a few good hits on him, he's probably going to take him down. Now, Chinhound is definitely going to die because he has... Oh, that was close for Shook. Okay, so the reason what happened was that after Chinhound's roamed down, Froggen, of course, knew exactly where he was for quite a while. Ooh, there's the rocket, the Super Mega Death Rocket, flying across the field, hoping to catch someone who's low on health out. But, yeah, Shook was smart enough to just walk away from where Jinx thought he was. Anyway, what happened was, Froggen, we're going to see a replay here. Shook goes in on Lep. Lep is isolated like the poor other jungler Danagorn was earlier. And Froggen there, he does a little bit of damage to Chinhound. He doesn't need to do all that much damage because what he did at the end was throw out his ultimate ability, Chum the Waters, which throws a fish, in this instance it's a lobster because of the skin that Froggen's wearing, throws out a lobster that tags the enemy, slows them down, and after a few seconds, a giant shark, or a giant manatee in this case, is going to pop up under them and do a ton of damage. Since Chinhound's was already so low, Froggen didn't need to follow him in under the turret to do the damage, and could just wait for the ultimate to destroy Chinhound's, and there was nothing Chinhound's could do about it. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Taps gets taken out by a great dark binding from Dan's, basically locking him up, forcing him to take a ton of damage under the turret, and that's another easy kill for Kaboom, who are honestly showing up in a huge way for this match, even though they have no hope of making out of group stages anymore.
Now, of course, as far ahead as Kaboom's getting, especially with the outer tier turret, that the moment they get the turret down, all their team gets a bounty of gold. I believe it's about 150 per person, or just 100. However, Froggen, Alliance's best player by far, one of the world's most famous mid laners, had just picked up another kill on Lep. He's already picked up a Sheen, which is an item that not only grants him more mana and more ability power to power up his spells, but also makes sense so that every single time he casts a spell, his next auto attack is going to deal extra damage. And Urchin Strike counts as an auto attack, so every single time he slides in, all of a sudden, dashing in on his enemy, he's doing upfront a huge amount of damage at once.
Yeah, and you can see it right there. Like, he's able to put down a sudden burst of massive damage that Chinhound's does not have any defensives right now. None whatsoever. So, if Froggen can put down all this burst on him, he's probably going to take him from 100% to near 0 or to 0 in one combo. However, Alliance are getting poked away from this dragon right now, and Kaboom are going to feel fairly safe taking it because Alliance is just not in a position to challenge for it. In the top lane, however, Wicked is going to get his own back by countering that dragon, by putting down a lot of pressure on that top lane turret. However, LEP with his teleport is going to come in and put a stop to that whole party. So, with 2 turrets, a dragon, and 5 kills, Kaboom are actually looking pretty darn good for this first match of for this second match of the day for them.
They actually have a 4,000 gold lead, which is surprising. Now, the teleport that Wicked use, is part of his summer spells. Every champion has 4 regular abilities, 3 basic abilities, 1 ultimate, as well as a passive ability. But you're able to add 2 additional abilities to your pool of options. These 2 abilities are called summer spells, and they're linked to your account rather than the individual champions. In this case, he used the summoner spell teleport, which is the purple icon next to his champion portrait. And what teleport does is allows you to go relocate on top of an allied minion, an allied ward, or allied turrets, and quickly rejoin the fight or find an opening in the enemy defenses. He also has Flash, which is the yellow icon that allows him to instantly teleport a shorter distance instantly, and hopefully get over walls or escape an attack, or otherwise find a better position. Unfortunately, both teleport and Flash have really long cooldowns. In Flash's case, over 5 minutes.
Ooh, Froggen does get caught by the Dark Binding, but he does get the spell immunity. Yeah, see, that's the Black Shield from Morgana coming into play there. The Black Shield blocks magic damage, which is the kind of damage that Froggen does, but more than that, it also blocks crowd control effects, like getting knocked up by a giant manatee coming out of the ground under you. Yes, that is an actual crowd control effect in League of Legends. So that Black Shield from Dance basically prevented Minerva from getting locked up long enough for Froggen to follow up on his initial attack, and if Froggen had been able to do that, he might have actually been able to pick up a kill there, but fast reactions from Dance keeps both him and his AD carry safe, and now they're going to do a little bit of a push on the mid lane, and Dance has been on point. Like, he has really been the playmaker for his team, landing those bindings, allowing his bot lane to pick up so many kills against Tabs and Nif and do so much pressure. And I've also got to give a shout out to Lep, who's been dueling Wicked one-on-one very evenly. They've only really had trouble when they got jungler attention, and that's impressive considering Alliance's incredible record at the World Championships so far.
Yes, indeed. What you're seeing now is Teno's clearing out the ward using his vision ward to spot where the invisible wards from the enemy teams are. Kabum has been doing a really good job this game of locking down Alliance's vision and reducing their ability to scout and pull it into their own side of the map. You see that Kabum has actually cleared out all 3 of the outer tier turrets from Alliance's side of the map. And what this does is reduce Alliance's margins of error when they try to fight anywhere near the river, as they now have nowhere safe to retreat to. That's the map control that happens when you take down the enemy turrets and install your own vision in its place.
Yeah, this is a... honestly, and with all the pressure that Kaboom right now putting down on the mid lane turret, while Froggen was off on the side trying to restore vision control, that's if that turret goes down, Alliance are honestly in quite a bit of trouble, because with that turret gone, their entire middle of the map, including their own jungles, will be severely reduced, giving Kaboom free reign to put down vision or take away the buffs that Alliance is so reliant on for quite a bit of their sustain and power. And Minerva, being on the Jinx, is so good at taking turrets, like so good. If she gets close to them with her minigun, she only needs a few seconds and then that turret is gonna be gone. And my stream is lagging out completely right now, so I don't know what the hell is going on.
I'm at 1630 and still going off fine for me. What they're basically doing is just keeping the pressure on the inner turret. Dagmar splashed forward and landed a cocoon on Nif, taking him out immediately. Tino's getting the credit for the kill. What's happened is that Cocoon is a long-range stun ability, but that's otherwise a little hard to land because of how slow it moves. But Frog is dead, and Minerva's dead as well. This is a chaotic fight, and Froggen has been doing amazing on his champion to
Whoa,
pick
I'm
up
back
a double,
in it now. I'm
triple
seeing
kill.
Froggen picking up Lep, Danagorn, and Minerva for a triple kill. He's basically saved his team. They do lose the inner middle turret, but taking all that pressure back means they finally can push out of their base safely and maybe restore some map control over this. Like, honestly, this is still not really a win for Alliance because, like I said, that inner middle turret is an incredibly important map objective, and without that, Alliance are honestly in quite a bit of trouble. But Froggen right now is showing why he's one of the star mid laners at this entire tournament, as well as probably the best mid laner in all of Europe, because doing that from the position that Alliance was in is, number one, extremely brave, and number two, extremely difficult.
Indeed. He's also finished the Lich Bane off of the which is an upgrade on the Sheen. And what the Lich Bane does is it doesn't just increase the physical damage you do, but converts all the magic damage you have, the ability power, into the additional spike on his auto attacks. It also increases his move speed, allowing him to close the distance on a target faster as well. And this is on top of buying now a needlessly large rod, which is just what it says. It gives you a needlessly large amount of extra ability power to increase the magic damage of throwing spells. So that Lich Bane is going to be dealing a whole ton of damage whenever he uses an Urgent Strike on a poor and hapless victim.
Yeah. Now, you see, Kaboom Gaming, they're not actually going to go for the Dragon, it looks like. They just want to put down a ton of vision control, but the Dragon is going to be coming back up. Yeah, in 3, 2, 1, it's available now. So Kaboom are just taking all the vision control they can around this objective, trying to prevent Alliance from coming in, but Froggen really doesn't give a damn. He just goes straight in onto Dance, blows everything he has without getting anything back for it. That's probably really, really over-aggressive by him, and now Nif is in a lot of trouble trying to get away from Tin Owns, but he's not going to have any hope of doing that. That's 2 dead people for Alliance. For nothing whatsoever, and now Kaboom are going to take the Dragon.
What was that?
That was massive misplay from Froggen, thinking he could kill someone before Kaboom could even react, but Dance just put down the Black Shield on himself, saving him from a lot of Froggen's magic damage, and Alliance don't get anything, and now they're probably going to lose this bottom inner turret as well.
Part of what Froggen overlooked was that Playful Trickster does take a while to actually cast, and Lep's Rune Prison instantly casts on wherever he's close enough to point the spell at. So Rune Prison prevented him from moving around and prevented him from using Playful Trickster, allowing the rest of Kaboom to
They
take
get a
him down
catch
quickly.
onto Minerva. Tabs finally lands in critical hook. Now they're challenging onto Lep. He does flash over the wall, meaning they can't immediately follow him. Shook and Froggen and Tabs, however, are all chasing down on Dance, who doesn't have a hope in the world of getting out. Kaboom overstayed their welcome just a little bit, and with an extremely aggressive move out of the bot lane, Alliance finally take a little bit of pressure back from that disastrous fight down by the Dragon. That's 3 kills for nothing. And this is really not the kind of game I was expecting right now from either Alliance or Kaboom.
I think they're still still feeling the hype from taking out Nigel Highshield yesterday. Aren't quite on top of their game at the moment.
Yeah.
Furthermore, they also did lose the inner bottom lane turret.
Yes.
So now their bottom lane inhibitor is exposed. And why that's really worrying for Alliance is because if Kaboom can somehow sneak onto that inhibitor and take it down, that bottom lane will start spewing super minions against Alliance, and super minions have a troublesome trait of having more armor, more health, and more damage than regular minions, to the point where they can actually legitimately put damage on an enemy champion alone. And because if you leave a super minion alone, it will take down the enemy structures for them, potentially taking out the entire base. And that's definitely something they don't want to happen. So having that inhibitor turret exposed is worrisome if Kaboom can just find the right time and position to push their advantage.
Yeah, this is interesting. I will say that no, actually, in the late game, Alliance are pretty screwed as well, because Kaboom have Rise, Kaboom have Jinx, both of whom scale very, very well into the late game. Tabs playing the Twitch does not scale even nearly as well, and neither does Wicked, to be quite honest. He has not shown any comfort or even a lot of capacity on that Kale pick so far, and my stream is lagging out like god damn it again. I'm gonna have to switch to another one.
Okay. Meanwhile, Kaboom is pressuring the second top lane turret to do basically the same thing that they did down at the bottom. Meanwhile, Froggen was pushing his bottom lane to try to keep the pressure off of Alliance, but he's forced to recall using a spell that every champion has to recall all the way back to the back of his base and hopefully rejoin the fight. Now, Kaboom isn't quite comfortable going in on the turret yet, as Dan did take a bunch of damage from Tabs. So they're definitely trying to test Alliance's defenses, test their willingness to engage in fights despite Kaboom's, frankly, a surprising advantage on their side.
Yeah, I'm still looking to see if I can't get the Asubu stream to work for me, so just a moment.
Okay.
I am back
No problem.
in a little moment. Hang on.
All right.
There we go. I am back. I'm 22, 17, 18, 19, 20...
Okay,
21.
I'm about 20 seconds ahead of you, so I'll back off a little bit.
Okay, so what's going on right now? Alliance is sort of trying to clear out the vision in their own jungle, which is just lit up like a Christmas tree with wards from Kaboom Gaming. So as long as Kaboom Gaming can maintain this level of vision control, which has actually been phenomenal for this entire game, then Alliance aren't really going to be able to surprise them ever. And if Alliance can't surprise them, then Nif is going to get surprised just like that. The charm misses from Tin Owns. If that had hit, Nif would have been a very dead man. However, Dance is going to take Froggen's ultimate to the face, plus quite a bit of extra damage. That's not really the target you want to dump all your damage down on, however, as Dance is not the critical target on Kaboom. Nif, however, takes a ton of damage back. Froggen is way too low to even consider turning for this fight, and now Alliance are on the run through their own jungle, which is, again, lit up by Kaboom's wards, putting them in quite a bit of a situation. This is, again, Alliance being way too aggressive on the wrong target. Froggen, either he's got nerves or else he's just feeling much. Oh my god, another charm onto Wicked, who does not have his ultimate to save himself because he used it to save Froggen earlier. Tinones gets a pick. A critical pick on a critical member of Alliance, meaning that Alliance now have to either win this team fight or lose everything. Oh my word, Froggen, you're in way too deep once more, and Wicked again is not there to save him. And Shook doesn't really manage to get anything back either. They have low members on Kaboom Gaming, but this is just horrendous. The inhibitor goes down.
I'm a little speechless. That was quite unexpected.
Are we seeing the right names here? Are we sure that it's not? Are we sure Alliance aren't playing on Kaboom's PCs? What the hell?
Tinone's pick was phenomenal. He managed to catch Wicked.
Froggen did the exact same thing several times yesterday in that perfect game against 19 White Shield. What the hell am I looking at?
Yes, Kaboom's also itemizing perfectly against this. Danagorn, it has built the Aegis of Legion. That was a mistake. Well, Danagorn hasn't been playing well, but he is providing his team with the right stats. The Aegis of Legion on Danagorn, the little yellow shield on the second slot of his inventory, provides him not just a lot of magic resistance to shrug off the damage from both Froggen and Wicked, but also provides an aura that buffs his team's magic resistance as well, making it harder for any of them to go down. Now, part of why Tinones is doing so much damage is his second inventory slot has the Deathfire Grasp, which is not only gives a huge spike of magic damage, but also allows him to cast a fireball onto a target painting them with a debuff that allows any of his magic abilities to deal extra damage onto the same target. Now, with Kaboom so far ahead of Alliance, they're feeling comfortable to do something that not even a lot of European teams would be willing to do, which is to start and take Dragon out from under the nose and take Baron Nashor from under the noses. Yeah. Now, Baron Nashor provides Kaboom with three primary things: more magic damage, more physical damage, and most importantly, more health regeneration. So not only does this give them 5,000 golds worth of statistics to favor them in the next fight, it also makes it much harder for Alliance to deter them from trying to take down turrets. Every single time Kaboom lands a spell on Alliance, it takes them a long time to heal that off. Whereas Alliance casting spells to damage Kaboom will be naturally healed off with the Baron buff.
Yeah, this is rather crazy because with the Baron buff, Kaboom are going to feel very, very comfortable pushing on this top lane. And Alliance, I really, really don't believe in that top lane pick for Wicked. That kill just has not worked out for him in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. But that's not even the problem here. The problem for Alliance this game has been that they have been playing like they're not even talking to each other. Like they don't even have any clue what each other are thinking. That like they're not. I am flustered. Alliance is my favorite team in the whole goddamn world, and seeing them falter like this does discombobulate me a little bit. But anyway,
especially against a team that's already been disqualified from the rest of the tournament.
They shouldn't even be able to do this, but Alliance are just letting them. So Alliance is up.
Pick on Tinones. Tinones is down. That's the main threat on Kaboom.
No, he's not dead.
Oh, he barely escapes.
He gets out.
Really saved him.
He really should have gone down, but he used the Sonya's Hourglass and had a charge left of his ultimate right at the exact right moment to get out in time. If he had gone down, then Alliance would have gotten some pressure back. But as it stands right now, that top lane inhibitor turret has taken a ton of damage. It's probably going to go down with one or two more determined pushes from Kaboom Gaming, who probably won't have the Baron by then at least. But with the inhibitor still dead in the mid lane, Alliance are... It had better turn out, Alliance, at the end of the game, that you were just trolling and just waiting for the exact right moment to stop playing like idiots and start playing like the top team in Europe, because this is just not okay at all. Oh.
It's definitely surprising, especially for Nipsey die so often. Now, what we see on Minerva right now, her third slot, is a very unusual item for her role. The Hex Drink is usually used on a fighter that tends to go in and take absorb a lot of the hits for his team. But going on Minerva means that they do respect Alliance's ability to chunk out a bunch of magic damage, especially from Froggen, who can leap on her at any moment. What the Hex Drinker does is that if you go down below a certain percent of your health, it automatically pops a purple shield on you that only absorbs magic damage. But since it does absorb magic damage, a lot of Alliance's fighting power is severely reduced, especially with Danagorn having fully completed the Aegis Legion into a Locket of the Iron Solari. Which means that not only does Kaboom have extra magic resistance across the entire team, but he can also pop a shield that further negates any damage from Alliance. So what we're saying here is Alliance having to beat back multiple shields in order to just put a single scratch on Kaboom, whereas Kaboom is so far ahead that any of their hits will naturally damage Alliance and put them further back.
Yeah, so Kaboom Gaming right now, all they want is really this inhibitor to make super minions start spawning in the mid lane again, and they're going to get it without any contest from Alliance because, as Obscurica mentioned, they still have the Baron on them, and they have all those shields that Alliance doesn't have a reliable way to destroy before they can get in with their damage. Froggen is so reliant on burst damage that shields are a huge problem for him because they're just going to take his burst damage away, and then it takes a long time before he has another combo to follow up with. And Wicked, even though he could do quite a lot with all the area of effect damage he's supposed to have at this stage in the game, he's too far behind. He doesn't have the items or the durability to get anywhere near Kaboom without getting blown up immediately. He needs, Alliance doesn't have anything to protect their major damage dealers as they go in to deal damage, and now Minerva using that rocket launcher, that extremely long range, to poke at their inhibitor turret in the top lane. This is looking worse and worse and worse for Alliance, and there's just no relief in sight for them unless they can kill Tinones, unless they can kill Minerva. If they can take those two out, then Lep and Danagorn and Dans become pretty easy to deal with, but they just haven't been able to get on top of them.
Yep. Part of it is that Tabs is having, despite not dying very often, he's only died once so far and has good amount of items. Even Tabs is having a hard time finding a way to put any damage on Kaboom. Kaboom, not only with the magic resistance, they've also built up a ton of armor. Lep already has the Radiant's own,
That's a good inhibitor turret.
Yep. Lep's Warden's Mail makes it start.
Okay, now Alliance is going in there. Finally, he's pulling the trigger on this. Froggen goes and he doesn't really get anything. He gets stunned up by the ultimate out of Dan's, and he's got to get taken out unless he can get away. He just barely gets away. Nif does manage to shut down Tinone, so that's a bit of an advantage for Alliance. It's a 1-for-1 so far. Tabs unloads onto Minerva, with Nif coming in with a great hook, finally turning the fight around for Alliance, and now Kaboom, all low on health, are forced to run away as Froggen chases in, threatening them with all that burst he can put down. Dance needs to land a really great Dark Binding right now, otherwise Kaboom could be looking at a delayed ace. Ooh,
Indeed.
the Rune Prism gets Froggen. The Dark Binding does not. Froggen is a little bit hesitant to follow up because Danagorn will have his... Yeah, crowd control. There it is, the cocoon up against the Froggen is just waiting for them to blow all of their disengaging. Oh, he's under the turret. Gets the invulnerability from Wicked. That is finally Dance going down. Hook onto Danagorn. That's going to be 4 members finally dead. Froggen picks up a double kill.
Yes!
Probably more than that over the course of this. And finally, Alliance show up for 5 seconds. Jesus Christ, you guys. How can you do this to me?
I apologize for my co-caster's language persistence, but he is a very passionate fan of Alliance.
Yes.
What happened then was Froggen knew that the biggest risk to him at that moment was the Rune Prism coming off left, as the instant speed casting of his spell would mean that he cannot simply play full Trickster and dodge away from it. So he had to wait until everybody else spent their spells, making it harder for them to catch him as he tried to slip in and take him down.
That hook
so
from
that was really
by the
patient
way.
for Froggen, and from any other mid laner, it might not have worked. But because of Froggen's patience and understanding of the enemy team's psychology, he was able to slip in and do just the right thing to catch up.
Yeah.
By
the way, that hook
Kaboom
you
is
saw
still really far behind, really far ahead.
Yeah, but the hook you saw from Nif landing onto Minerva as he was dueling Tabs is the reason Tabs was able to win that fight, because Minerva was about to unload quite a bit of damage on Tabs' head that he wouldn't have been able to dodge, and at that point, that fight would have honestly gone in Minerva's favor, but with that hook, with that 2-second stun or so from Tabs hitting onto Minerva's head, that's really a key point in how they were able to turn the fight, because if Minerva had been around for that chase, Froggen would not have been able to go in. Minerva does have those traps.
Minerva now is deceptively tanky for an AD carry, and that he has a Bloodthirster now, which is an item that's not only grants him the ability to heal based on the amount of damage he puts down on target,
this
but
is so tense. That dragon, that Baron. Okay, so they're backing away from Baron because Alliance are coming in. Now, the thing that happened, Danagorn by accident spent the invulnerability onto tabs. Thank God, that was very close. Accidentally, the Lockout of the Ancillary is on cooldown because Danagorn clicked it by accident. He certainly did not mean to. I think he was trying to ward and accidentally clicked on the shield, which was just wasted on nothing. So Kaboom, without that shield, again, to block out some of Froggen's damage, his instant burst, were just not willing to really take that fight. That was honestly quite a big misplay from Danagorn.
Indeed, that was really, really dangerous for both sides of the team. For both teams right now. Now, Leb has finished his Frozen Heart, which is going to prove a problem for both Shooks, Wicked, and Tabs in the future. As Frozen Heart creates an offensive debuff aura that reduces the attack speed of all enemy champions near him. Since Wicked and Tabs are both reliant on attack speed to deal the majority of the damage, it reduces Alliance's abilities to fight Kaboom on equal keel. So now Alliance needs to be careful about where Leb is and where their own damage sources are in order to maximize their ability to take a fight from Kaboom.
Yeah, and Froggen, even Froggen relies quite a bit on auto attacks to put down some damage because he has a powerful debuff, which does damage over time. So if he can land that after putting down a lot of his burst damage, that can help him along with an Ignite that his other summon spell Secure Kill. Less relevant now than it would have been earlier in the game, of course, but it's still a small faction. Now, Kaboom are sort of focused around the mid lane, because if they can push either the top or the mid lane right now, they can get inhibitors down. Oh my god, Froggen goes straight back and he gets the invulnerability on him from Wicked, saving him from a lot of the burst damage coming out of Kaboom, but they do manage to get him with a Super Mega Death Racket coming straight out of Minerva. Wicked is now taking a ton of damage from that goddamn rocket launcher as they are all trying to run away. Without the star mid laner, Alliance does just not have the burst damage to take out Kaboom right now. They have to back away. If Kaboom get another Baron off the top of this, I don't see how Alliance are coming back in this game at all. They're not even going to go for the Baron, they're just going to go for the inhibitors, because once the inhibitors are down, Alliance are going to be forced to defend their base forever, and Kaboom can go to the Baron safely. I'm okay. I'm fine.
Breathe.
I'm fine.
Breathe. I think you're seeing white spots in front of your eyes, but that was definitely an exciting play. That was definitely an exciting play that turned around the fight against Alliance. You also see Lep teleporting in from his base. Well, I'm not actually sure where he teleported from, but he teleported in to join the fight, providing his team the Frozen Heart aura to further reduce Alliance's ability to respond. That has two inhibitors down. That's going to be 2 Ace full of Super Minions crashing into Alliance's side of the field. And it's really, really hard to come back from that kind of deficit.
This is like Alliance, but I will note that although it's very hard to come back from 2 inhibitors, Alliance did manage to come back from them previously because of that excellent fight that they took, and now with much of Kaboom out of position, Alliance are going to go for the Baron. This could go so wrong, so very, very wrong. They need to take it down. They need to take it down really quickly before Kaboom can get anywhere close. Lep runs in with all of his tankiness. He's not afraid at all. Alliance are desperate to take the Baron there. They do get the Baron Asher. Shook manages to smite it away, and he jumps out with his ultimate on making him invisible. Chinos is trying to follow up, but Alliance get the Baron and get out safe. Are you fucking kidding me? Holy shit balls!
Wow, that was brilliant! It's really, really hard to be pinned against the Baron National Wall like that, with facing out the enemy team and still somehow come out with your skin intact. And for Alliance to do all that and take the Baron means that suddenly Kaboom is not as safe as they were before. The 5,000 gold that Alliance has gained from the 5,000 gold stats that Alliance has gained from Baron doesn't necessarily fully close the gap with Kaboom, but it does provide them a much greater margin of safety for them to initiate the next fight.
Yeah, that was, again, let's explain exactly what it is. Like, when you have the Baron on, you have extra combat stats and extra regeneration, and people have calculated that if you were to buy the same stats in terms of items, it would cost you about 5,000 gold. So, when you have the Baron on, we say that you have 5,000 gold worth of extra stats that don't show up in your gold total, but do show up in the amount of power you can put down on the field. So, this is, This Alliance is running on Hail Marys and just blind luck right now. They're defending their top lane while Kaboom is pushing into the bottom lane. Lions can't know that this is happening because they have no vision anywhere on the map at all. They have no wards except like 2 wards around the top and a vision ward down by the Baron, which is useless right now. So Tin Owls is waiting over the side of the wall. He's going to throw out a charm and try to catch someone. If he catches someone, they're going to die. So Alliance are going to have to be really, really careful and try and get some vision back on the field. You can see them trying putting down wards just at the front of their damn base so they can see out a little bit further and maybe get an idea of what Kaboom are trying to do. But all Kaboom has to do, honestly, they don't have to fight right now. They just have to stall out that Baron from Alliance, because unless Alliance can get a really great team fight, which is honestly what Alliance wants right now, they can't really do anything with this Baron except defend, and defend some more. It's not bad for that, but Froggen gets caught by a charm, takes a ton of damage. The invulnerability from Wicked comes down. He takes the Lantern to get out of damage. Oh my god, and the inhibitor turret is taking more and more damage. Nif is throwing out the hooks, but they're not landing on anything. Alliance, they're gonna heal that damage back up, but this is just, they've got the goddamn minions on their Nexus turrets. This is so bad. Danagon goes in for tabs, does manage to get him, doesn't even pay for it with his life. Lab is taking so low, and Sugar's going in. Danagon taking out 2 for 1 so far. Tabs is gone, but so is Shook. Nif is taken out by a charm. Minerva is running through the base, running up on Wicked. Froggen is nowhere to be seen. He's on the fountain trying to heal. He's going in on Minerva. He gets the damage on Minerva, and he gets taken out. Taken out by Tin Owls, and Wicked is now taking so much damage. It's an ace. A final ace for Kaboom Gaming as they take down the Nexus and take down Alliance. It's the only win at the World Championships against a team that yesterday pulled up a perfect victory against the group favorites. Are you kidding me? I didn't want to have to do this again today. I wasn't expecting to do this in a fight with Kaboom Gaming, the lowest seed in the entire group. And now I'm here, screaming my lungs out because Alliance has failed me. Jesus. Congratulations to Kaboom Gaming on beating perhaps the least likely team they could possibly have beaten today, and spoiling the entire group for all of Europe. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I am left speechless.
Oh my fucking god. Brazil.
No way I could have predicted this happening in any universe.
One did. No one did. Brazil, I hope you're celebrating because you have earned this. You have earned the hell out of this. You played excellently, and Alliance screwed this up from the beginning. We're going to throw you back to the caster desk.
Their total allowed Kaboom to take a game that most people, 99% of observers, would have declared impossible. That was freaking brilliant on Kaboom's part, and really disappointing from Europe's #1 seed. But that's certainly promising for the long-term results of Brazil's esports programs, because I am excited to see where they take this.
Yeah, this is huge. Like, it's huge for Brazil. It's huge for the region. It's huge for all of them. It's huge for Worlds in general, because nobody expected any of the wildcard teams to pick up anything. Like, anything. Nothing whatsoever. They were not expected to even have a chance at getting a damn thing, but now it's all up in the air. I'm throwing you back to the casters, and I'm going to have like 12 cups of tea until my voice is back. And we will see you for the picks and ban phase of the next game.
So, ladies and gentlemen, after whatever the hell just happened, and I'm still not quite sure what it was, because I've decided to live in denial until Alliance get either knocked out or get into quarterfinals, we have Fnatic versus Samsung Blue, another rematch, another potentially dead. Okay, apparently anything can happen now, so who knows? Fnatic have beaten Samsung Blue before, even though Samsung Blue are the absolute biggest favorites to win the group of death, which is what the nickname
None of that
is
has
for the group
meant
they're
much
in.
this tournament.
Yeah, it's okay. So basically, Fnatic have quite slim chances to make it out of group stages, and the only way that they do it at all, the only way they have even the slightest chance, is if they beat Samsung Blue right now. So it is make or break time for Fnatic. Take us through the picks and bans, man. I still need to catch my breath.
No problem. So, knowing how powerful Deft is on Twitch, and knowing how powerful that Dade is on Yasuo, those are the first two bans that Fnatic has put out against the Korean team. What Twitch does is he's able to go invisible, sneak up on a target, and unload an absolutely withering amount of damage all at once on any target he manages to face. He is in fact one of the few. He is one of the few AD carries considered an assassin in the game. Meanwhile, Dade's Yasuo is not only able to knock up a target, do a whole bunch of damage to a single target, and slip around on the map as long as there are enemy units to target. He also has an ability called Wind Wall that's able to block projectiles coming out of Fnatic's side. So basically, what Dade is able to do is completely mess up Fnatic's ability to put down damage on his team. Meanwhile, the bans on Samsung Blue's side is targeted at either XPK, SOAS, or Reckless. Reckless is one of Europe's very best AD carries, as in he plays champions that deal mostly auto attacks. And Lucian especially, it has been particularly good. Just like Twitch, Lucian is able to simply blow up a target by getting near them and blowing them up. Also, the Alistar is one of the most common bans in this game. It has an 87.2% ban rate, showing that there's no team in Worlds that actually wants to deal with a cow that can reduce 70% of the damage targeted at him with a single press of the button after level 6. So instead, they're going to keep it out of the game. Now, Fnatic's first pick was Lee Sin, a jungler, a champion that's mostly going to spend his time in the fog of war, farming neutral camps, and try to find opportunities to assassinate targets. As Lee Sin has an ability called a Sonic Wave and Resonating Strike. Sonic Wave tags a target with a blue fireball, and then once tagged, a champion has a debuff that allows Lee Sin to instantly collapse on that target, closing the distance between them and dealing % of their maximum health and damages.
Yeah.
He's also Side-Eye's also picked up Tristana for Reckless, which is a short little cute gunner with a huge big rocket on her shoulders that can fire at every level, increases the range in which you can do basic attacks on a target. Tristana early on isn't all that strong, as she starts off with a relatively short attack range, but by level 18 she has one of the longest attacks in the game, and it's therefore much harder for Samsung Blue to get close on.
Yeah, so on the other hand, on Samsung Blue, they have picked up, Acorn is holding right now the Thresh pick for Heart. Thresh, as we saw in previous games in the tournament, is a very powerful pick champion with quite a lot of crowd control. He has a hook that he can throw onto enemies, which will stun them for a brief period of time, as well as allow him to pull them a little bit towards them, or else go in on them and land a lot more crowd control, which is in his kit. So he's a very skill dependent champion. If you can't land the hooks and can't land the flays, which is one of his other abilities, then he's utterly inefficient. But if you can do it, you can literally turn the game for your team in the right situation. In the top lane, Dade is holding right now. This is Acorn going to be playing him, by the way. Dade is holding on to Maokai, who is a powerful top lane tank who has the ability to reduce the damage dealt to all of his team around him by about 20%. And that 20%... okay, I'm getting some bullshit in the chat.
I'll just ban him. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. With that 20% damage reduction, he can basically prevent damage from, for instance, the Rumble pick, which is SOAS is going to be picking, from going down on his team effectively. So he's a very effective champion at keeping his team alive and healthy in a fight. Let's have a look
To the rest of the picks right now. Rumble, as I mentioned on SOAS, Rumble is an area of effect control champion. He's able to really control areas by putting down his ultimate called the Equalizer, which is a long line of fire that he can lay on the ground for a brief period of time. And that basically prevents enemies from going where that line is, because once they pass over it, they're going to take a lot of slow and a lot of damage, and if they get locked up in the fire area, even if Rumble is quite far behind, they're still going to hurt a lot. It's a very powerful ability. It allows him to control zones, control areas, especially around important objectives, making Rumble a very powerful pick. Even if you can't win your lane or get ahead on him, he's still dangerous.
Now, interestingly enough, Dade has picked up Talon, which is a physical ability assassin. He's able to turn it. He's not only able to leap on a target and rake him with a bunch of daggers, but also turn invisible, creating a radius of daggers around him that eventually collapses upon him once he exits invisibility. Any enemy units that those daggers pass through, and they will pierce through them, potentially dealing damage to more than one target, will take a whole chunk of damage at once. And he's also able, and because he turns invisible, it becomes impossible for Fnatic to target him with spells or to know where he's going to be going.
Yeah, so we've got two compositions. Now, the composition for Fnatic is a little bit unusual in that if you have a hypercarry like Tristana, you generally like to focus quite a bit of your composition around protecting her from enemies so that they can't get on top of her and kill her. Tristana is already pretty safe, so Fnatic have elected to only go with the Janna as defense for their Tristana. And again, I lost quite a bit of my voice screaming at Alliance and their absurd loss in the previous game, so forgive me if I stutter a little bit at times, but they've elected only to go with Janna, who's a powerful disengaged champion, to defend that Tristana from enemies, while in the mid lane, Xpeke finally picking up that melee ranged assassin Zed. I'm interested to see how well he plays him, especially against Dade on Talon. That's a matchup we've seen quite a number of times before already, but Xpeke hasn't played Zed in a long time.
Yep, although he is really good on it. In fact, a lot of the mid laners, pretty much you can assume that they are very, very good on Zed. The Zed's benefit is that he's able to pretty much blow up any single target thanks to a Death Mark, where the moment he applies it, not only does he create a Shadow Clone that can copy any of his spells, dealing any other spells, dealing additional damage, but after a while, Death Mark will accumulate all that damage and pop like an explosion, a single target explosion anybody in the game. Assuming, of course, that they're low enough in health that the Death Mark will finish them off.
Yeah,
if not,
the danger of the Death Mark is that once it's down, you only have a short window of time to put down damage for it to amplify. So if you can't do that, then the Death Mark actually doesn't... on its own, the Death Mark deals almost no damage whatsoever. But with that extra damage you can put down, it can essentially just completely ruin a person's day before they have a chance to react. So it's a very, very, very skill-based champion, that said, and Xpeke is known to be very good at him, but he hasn't played him competitively this tournament at all, I believe, and certainly not in the LCS.
Oh, wow, that's a surprising collapse on him. Wow! So, just to make sure we're all on the same timestamp, it's right now...
1 minute, yeah, and Yellowstar has gotten caught by quite a lot of Samsung Blue and is going to get taken out by a combination of the Ignite damage as well as the Rake from Talon. Acorn in the top lane also getting caught out a little bit, but he's only going to take a few hits of damage. He doesn't really have to care too much about it. That's a significant first blood for Samsung Blue, putting them 500 gold ahead at, less than 2 minutes, which at this point is actually quite a bit of a lead because it allows Talon to go back and pick up his first damage item as well as the sustain item called the Crystalline Flask, which he had at the start. He was counting on this lane being a very tough matchup for him. Like, he was going to take a lot of damage, have to heal himself a lot, have to go back a lot to heal. Now that he's got that little bit of damage back and that little bit of a gold advantage to start with, he's looking a lot better against Xpeke in the mid lane.
Oh, this is interesting. Dade not only has the Crystalline Flask, but he also has the Total Biscuit of Rejuvenation, named after the famous YouTuber and owner of Axiom Esports. The Total Biscuit of Rejuvenation is usually only available to the support champion, as it requires particularly deep investment in support masteries. But right now, there's a huge level 1 fight already.
Yeah, Samsung Blue are looking to steal the blue buff, the big golem wandering around there. And in order to do that, they have to pull Fnatic away from it. Fnatic do go a little bit deep with Cyanide, who's taking a lot of damage from a lot of poke coming out of Deft. Deft, however, is also taking a lot of damage. Hard is taking a lot of damage. He has to flash over the wall if he wants to survive. He doesn't get there. It's a 1 kill back For Fnatic. Whoa, and now, okay, Deft could actually still get caught here if he's not a little bit careful, because Yellowstar's got sight of him, and if the tornado hits, the Electro Harpoon, flash for flash. Now, losing flash on Deft is actually a bit worse than losing it on Soaz, because Soaz has other ways to escape a fight, but Deft really, really, really doesn't once his Valkyrie is blown. He's only level 1, he doesn't have the Valkyrie yet, so... Oh, wow. I don't know how this is going to affect the lanes. I haven't seen a proper level 1 fight like this in so long. But the upshot is that off the back of that kill and all that pressure, Fnatic push into the jungle and take away the red buff, which is the opposite kind of buff than the blue buff that Samsung Blue were trying to steal in the blue side jungle. The red buff gives you a little bit of extra damage on your auto attacks and lets them burn for damage over time on the enemy. This is quite an effective buff, especially for... Oh god, I'm getting pings on Skype. Especially for junglers who need it in order to set them up to be able to gank an enemy, which is to say, kill people. Kill people from an ambush position around the lane.
Yes, since they're slower, it makes it a lot harder for them to get away. Now, the reason why Samsung Blue wanted to steal the blue buff instead is simply because it helps it also helps the jungler, but a much different way. It increases their mana regeneration, so it makes it so that they can cast more spells before they run out of mana, as well as reduce the cooldown, which means that they can cast more spells more frequently, and that it reduces the amount of time before a spell reduces the amount of time they need to wait before a spell is available to them again. Now, unfortunately, Soaz is getting ganked. Being targeted
but it's
by
not really an
Spirit, the enemy
effective
jungler.
one in this instance. Spirit is coming in, is trying to land the cocoon. That is missed, but Soaz elects to go back under his turret. He's hoping that the turret damage will force Samsung Blue away, and it does seem to be happening. That was a bit of a risky decision for him, because he had his own jungler coming in, and if he had retreated to Cyanide's side, he probably wouldn't have taken quite so much damage trying to hold on to the turret. However, he does manage to prevent a lot of damage to the turret. He can tank it up himself without too much danger, and he survives, pushing both of Samsung Blue's characters away from him. That was impressively played by Soaz. That was a dangerous call. Peg's getting ganked again by Spirit. Not really going to be effective, though. He saw him coming from a mile away.
Yeah, can I get a timestamp check with you right now?
Yes, I am at 4:45, 46, 47, 48, 49.
Okay, so I'm about 10 seconds behind.
Okay.
10 seconds ahead, sorry.
Okay, so he's just going to slow down to catch up with me, which is a weird phrase to say. So... Basically, right now, everything is pretty much even. Like, Samsung Blue got the first blood, which puts them a little bit ahead in gold, but pretty much Reckless on his own has managed to catch that up by just being like 10 or 15 CS ahead. That's all it really takes to balance out the extra gold that you get for the first blood. Now we have a fight between the supports with Yellowstar getting caught a little bit by Hart. Now Hart throws back his lantern, which if an allied champion clicks on the lantern, they will be transported to Hart's location, so he is hoping to pull in Spirit from the backside to land his cocoon on Yellowstar and maybe set up a kill there. That barely did not work, but honestly, quite a decent effort from Hart. Like, he put down quite a bit of damage on Yellowstar, so he'll be happy with that trade, but yeah, it's at this point, he's not that dangerous. Thresh does have a mechanic, which is worth noting, that the more he levels up his flay, which is the ability he has to drag people backwards or forwards, depending on what he wants to do, the more damage his auto attacks will do, in bonus magic damage.
Yeah,
so, and
we also see that
souls he picks up.
Yeah. We also see that even though Hart wasn't able to get a kill, he did put down a ward on Fnatic's side of the map. The wards are little triangles you see on the lower right in the mini-map, and they'll show up as little green totems in the actual game. The side wards go invisible, and they also offer vision of the local area, giving Samsung Blue a much better idea of what's going on Fnatic's side of the jungle, and whether or not Cyanide is going to try to get a gank in, a kill in on their team.
Yeah.
However, there are a couple drawbacks. The side wards only last for 3 minutes and only last for 3 hits. If you have a way to detect invisible units, such as with the vision ward, then they'll go down pretty easily and gain you a tiny amount of gold for your troubles. Yeah. The vision wards can detect invisible units, but they have their own drawbacks. They do not go invisible. They can be valuable if you simply wander across them. But they do, and they can be taken down for even more gold along the way, as well as costing 100 gold every single time you buy one. However, vision wards do last for 5 hits instead of 3. So if the support tries to clear out every single ward they find, it's easy for them to be caught out of position and assassinated using the ward as a bait. So it's definitely something to be careful of later on when the enemy teams everywhere across the map.
Yeah, it is also worth noting that Dade relies on invisibility for his ultimate ability. If he can't go invisible, like for instance if an enemy pink ward is nearby, or if the enemy uses a special trinket called the sweeping lens on him, then he loses quite a lot of his advantage, that advantage he's relying on having by going invisible. So if Fnatic are very clever, they will have a pink ward for every team fight, so they can cancel out his ability to get out of sight when he uses his ultimate. We'll see whether that comes into play, however, as Reckless... Ooh, dude, there's a hook waiting for you from Hart there if he can land it. Nah, he's not quite close enough, but Hart is really looking for it. If Hart lands a hook, Akon can put quite a bit of damage onto Reckless, so it is a thing to be careful about. And we see, again, this is something we've seen multiple times during this tournament, that... we have the bottom lane swapping up to the top lane, making that a 2 versus 1 situation. So, Samsung Blue bring their support, instead of their support supporting the AD carry, which is the thing they usually support, they start supporting the top laner instead, to prevent them from getting completely shoved out of lane. And the upshot of that is that Acorn is at 40 creeps killed, while Soaz has only managed a mere 17. Like I said earlier, Soaz can be behind and still be effective, but Acorn, if he gets ahead... he becomes extremely difficult to deal with, so Fnatic might want to look into ways to shut down Maokai, played by Acorn, a little bit more before we head into the late game where he becomes a huge problem to deal with.
Yeah. Now, Soaz is behind on CS on creep scores, which is the number of units, the number of enemy units non-champion units he's managed to kill. But he's not actually as far behind as he looks, as he does have the 1 kill from earlier in the game when Fnatic managed to catch a Cincture Claws into Heart. So although it is a tough lane for him, he is accumulating enough gold to stay relevant in the game. Now, the reason why it's unusual to see a support helping a top laner is because supports are designed to help AD carries stay safe in the game. As AD carries early on, they don't do a lot of damage with their auto attacks, and their spells tend to be weaker than the mages. Yes. Death, however, on Corki, is a bit of the other way around. Yes, his auto attacks aren't all that powerful yet, but he has really impacting and really damaging spells to help him early on. And Soaz gets caught.
Yeah, well, nothing's going to come of it. This is just Hart trying to prevent Soaz from recalling back to base to heal himself up, which is sensible enough, because right now Soaz is not aware, actually none of Fnatic is aware, that Samsung Blue has collapsed for the mid lane dragon, and actually Hart is still harassing Soaz away from recalling effectively. So this is actually a very clever play from the support, who is deep in enemy territory, and if he's not dangerous, he's going to go down with the collapse from Cyanide, but his team are moving to back him up. Now they're moving for the red buff, which of course Cyanide has already taken away, so less win from them there, and Reckless is going to take away the top lane turret, but I don't think Fnatic are fully aware that the drag... Oh my god, Spirit gets caught by Soaz on ultimate straight across him. So I think what happened there was that Spirit was standing in the brush and recalling. Unfortunately, he did not know that Fnatic knew he was there, so he opened the shop screen, waiting to recall, trying to figure out what items am I going to buy when I go back. And when you're window shopping like that,
oh boy,
you're very vulnerable while you're standing still. Now, Dade does manage to get the kill back onto Cyanide with a little bit of help from Hart, because Fnatic apparently got a little bit overconfident trying to come back from that pick-off, but... wow, action all of a sudden all across the map. Deft and Hart putting a lot of pressure on the bottom lane turret. I suspect they're going to get it shortly. Yeah, the moment the next minion wave hits that turret, it's going to go down, and Soaz knows it, which is why he's retreating. He knows that he can't really defend it, and if he does, there's a risk he's going to get dove on by the bottom lane and maybe the jungler, because he doesn't know that Spirit is in the top side of the map right now.
Yes, now the reason why they're focusing so much on turrets is multifold. First, that the taking down of turrets grants the entire team gold, which helps everybody get an advantage over the opposition. It also makes it so that way the team that controls the turret no longer has that turret to safely go under when the fight goes bad, or to simply keep the opposing team from going too deep into their territory.
Trying to collapse on Spirit. They're not really going to get anything out of it, but now Acorn and Hart and Dade are coming in. That's a 3 versus 4 that Fnatic do not want to fight. Acorn goes in deep, gets onto Peke. There was the ultimate out of Dade, taking out the Fnatic mid laner, but they're going to get a kill back on Dade, so Yellow Stars